Do people with borderline personality disorder attract avoidant relationships? You asked me this question on TikTok, and we are going to get to the bottom of it.
Welcome to the What's Eating You podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie Giorgio, and I'm a clinical psychologist.
Welcome back to the What's Eating You podcast. If you're watching on YouTube, leave some love below in the comments, as this is a new format that I'm recording. So if you're enjoying it, I really want to know. And if you're listening on the podcast, take a screenshot and share it on Instagram. Now, this question came from someone on TikTok, and to be honest, it was a big conversation. So I thought I'd do a video on it. And if you're looking at me thinking, what has happened to your hair? If you're watching this on video, I haven't washed my hair in a really long time and it is greasy. I'm getting it washed tomorrow. So next time you see me, I'll be a lot more fresh. But nevertheless, let's get straight into this episode. You might actually be thinking, why am I drawn to people who pull away? It's a complex, often painful experience, but strangely, there exists a magnetic connection between people with borderline personality disorder and avoidant attachment styles. How do you know that this could be you? Have you ever felt completely consumed by someone who seems emotionally distant? Do you chase closeness? Or are you usually met with withdrawal? Now, if this sounds familiar, you're not alone. This is a common psychological phenomenon, and I'm going to explain what it is. So let's understand the players. Borderline personality disorder, it's a serious mental health condition, whereas an avoidant attachment, it's not a diagnosis, it's an attachment style. It's the way that you are based on your relationship with your primary caregiver. What does that mean? So people with borderline personality disorder, this has usually been developing for a long time, and typically you're not diagnosed with borderline personality disorder before the age of 18 because your personality is still forming. It's a long and enduring pattern of instability in your life. Now, this instability shows up in 4 ways. The first is mood instability. People with borderline personality disorder have these emotional highs and lows. They can also be known as the emotional burns victim. They experience these moods from 0 to 100, and they feel very, very intense and often difficult to manage, which leads to my second area of instability, which is behavioural dysregulation. Because people with borderline personality disorder have a lot of difficulty regulating their emotions, they might resort to risk-taking behaviours such as self-harming, reckless driving, drinking, drug use, because they never learn how to control their emotions properly. So they usually resort to behaviors that are unhealthy and impulsive. And that's why BPD, it's important to rule out ADHD because the impulsivity can be apparent in both. The third area of instability is cognitive, which means their thoughts. So often they see the world as black or white. They have trouble seeing that good and bad qualities can exist in the same person. They're very like, either I'm perfect or I'm a failure. And that's what leads to the mood issues because their thought patterns are very rigid. Now, this leads to the last thing, which is instability in their personal relationships. So that's what we're going to talk about today. But people with BPD often have intense relationships because they have this chronic fear of abandonment. They will go to extreme lengths to avoid real or imagined abandonment. They have a deep craving for closeness and connection and reassurance. And they have a tendency to form quick, strong connections, but they fear losing these people. And in order to be diagnosed with BPD, it's obviously a very serious diagnosis. You don't want to take it lightly. But if you do have borderline personality disorder, it's okay. There are many people I know with BPD who live amazing, great quality of life, but you have to do the work. It's a long-term game. And to be honest, people say, what's the best therapy? Group dialectical behavior therapy and individual therapy is very efficacious, but you have to stick to it. You can't go to therapy once in every blue moon and hope for something to change in your life.
Do you struggle with attention, remembering important details such as appointments or even replying to a text? Organisation and day-to-day life stuff such as cooking and cleaning? You are not alone. You may even find it harder than others to manage your emotions. Or do you feel sensitive to perceived rejection or criticism? These are just some of the symptoms we may see in someone who has attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. However, even if you don't have diagnosed ADHD, we live in a society where we all struggle at times with our executive functioning. Your executive functioning is the CEO of your brain. It's responsible for planning, remembering, processing information, motivation, attention, and getting started on tasks. There are limited spots in this amazing program, so don't wait to book in. Stay tuned for the release date, and I can't wait to have you be part of the community.
Now, let's talk about avoidant attachment styles. Now, if you haven't listened to my other episode on the mother wound, highly recommend it because I talk a bit more about attachment styles there. But essentially, an attachment style is just how you relate to others, and this depends on your early interactions with your primary caregiver. So if your mother met all your needs as a child, you felt safe, secure, loved, protected, physically cared about, there was affection, there was all those important things, you're likely to have a secure attachment. If your primary caregiver didn't meet your needs, it's likely that you have an insecure attachment. So for example, if your primary caregiver wasn't present, if they were inconsistent, maybe sometimes they met your needs, maybe other times they were drunk, it's likely that you have an insecure attachment. Now, the types of insecure attachment can be disorganized attachment, anxious attachment, and avoidant attachment. Today, we're going to talk about avoidant attachments. Now, people with an avoidant attachment, they struggle with emotional intimacy. They see intimacy and closeness as almost a weakness. Now, I know because I dated someone with an avoidant attachment for 4 years. And for many, many years, I couldn't understand what it was. I would go above and beyond to try to make this guy happy, to meet his needs. He was a very smart, very nice person, but I just felt like I could never get close to him, no matter how hard I tried. In 4 years, he never said he loved me, but I got so much love from my family, from my friends, that it didn't really bother me because I wasn't an insecure person. I was just like, me, whatever. He's just emotionally distant. You do you, boo. And I never really let it get me down. But there were moments it got me down. And when I learned about attachment theory, I actually read this book called Attached, and it changed my life. I was on this holiday with him, and I was like, oh my gosh, you need to listen to this. You need to listen to this book. And he was like, yeah, that's me. And I said, what are you going to do about it? You're an avoidant attachment. You need to fix this. He said nothing. And he didn't want to do anything about it. And that's when I knew, I don't think this relationship is for me. Anyways, sorry to make this about me, but people with an avoidant attachment, they prioritize independence and over connection. And they think that if you rely on someone, you're weak. And they struggle to have affection with people and be emotionally vulnerable. And they feel overwhelmed and suffocated by closeness. And they want to withdraw when things get emotionally intense, right? Because I would start, after 4 years, I started to have this conversation. Where is this going? Like, are we getting married? What's happening? And then I realized I was tiptoeing around his commitment anxiety. I was tiptoeing around his marriage anxiety. And I said, listen, I'm not going to tiptoe around your commitment anxiety. I deserve to be with a man who knows he wants to marry me. I deserve to be with a man that wants to put a ring on it. This is your issue. You're the problem.
Do you eat a large amount of food in a short period of time and feel a loss of control? Maybe you make yourself sick after you binge eat. If this is you, you're not alone. I'm a clinical psychologist who went through a 9-year eating disorder, and I know how to get to the other side of food freedom. If you're ready to ditch the dieting mentality, discover food freedom, and find confidence in yourself and your body, click the free eating evaluation call. The link is below.
Back to the point of this podcast, what happens when someone with an emotional attachment meets someone with borderline personality disorder? So you've got Someone with an avoidant attachment, they are emotionally avoidant. They try to keep you at arm's length. They maintain an escape route. They do this because that's how they learnt to be growing up. Maybe their mum wasn't always there for them, or their dad, whatever it was. But then you got someone with borderline personality disorder who fears being rejected and abandoned. And they will go to extreme lengths to get close to this person. This dynamic is a push-pull dynamic. It becomes a pursuit withdrawal cycle. The BPD person, they seek closeness and reassurance. Do you love me? What's going on? Da 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 da. The avoidant pulls away. This is getting it's too intense. And then this withdrawal triggers the borderline personality disorder's abandonment. You're going to abandon me. You're going to leave me, which leads to more intensity. Love me, love me. What are you doing? They pull away. They come closer. They pull away. And this leads to more and more intensity, and the cycle continues. So to the person with borderline personality disorder, the avoidant feels like a lifeline and a threat at the same time. Now, it's not to say that the avoidant is completely dismissive. You can have great sexual chemistry. You can have really great intimacy and sex with this person, which can get confusing because people often consume physical intimacy with emotional intimacy, but they're two very, very different things. The avoidant might be a great lover, might be great in bed, but it doesn't mean that there is emotional intimacy. They'll avoid looking in your eyes when they're having sex with you, or maybe it's just that, but there's no emotional connection there. Why does this attraction feel so strong? This connection between the borderline personality disorder and the avoidant is familiar. It usually mirrors dynamics in childhood. So for the person with borderline personality disorder, this relationship dynamic, it mimics inconsistent and emotionally unavailable relationships from childhood. So 99% of the time, and this is just a statistic off my head, people with borderline personality disorder grew up in an invalidating environment. And what that means is their mum didn't meet their needs. Their needs were invalidated, they were called dramatic, they were called too much, and that's why they essentially developed this personality disorder. So being with this person, it mirrors that same pattern. And even though the pattern is bad, it feels familiar. And sometimes what feels familiar makes us think it's good for us, but it's not. The second reason is it can be subconsciously validating. So, for example, if you believe, oh, I'm not good enough and I'm not lovable, this relationship mirrors that. And you can say, well, see, I was right. I am too much. See, I was right. I'm not lovable. So our needs can be met in bad ways too. Now, it's also reinforcing. The more the avoidant partner withdraws, the more the person with BPD clings on, and vice versa. It's not chemistry, it's trauma bonding. Can this dynamic work? It can, but it's going to take a lot of work, and you need to decide if the juice is worth the squeeze. Can an avoidant change their attachment style? Possibly. Your attachment style is like plastic. It's moldable, but it's pretty stable in life. They have to want to change. If people don't want to change, they won't change. And often the issue is people with an avoidant attachment style, they think that everyone else is the problem. So if they don't think they need to change, then they won't change. Now, the person with borderline personality disorder, they need to learn DBT skills, dialectical behavior therapy, which is a type of therapy that's very structured and it helps with emotion regulation, mindfulness, interpersonal relationships, and they need to do inner child work. People with the avoidant attachment style can improve by working on emotional tolerance and vulnerability. They might have to do couples counseling together, but it's tough and it's hard. And you need to really weigh up whether you're wanting to invest in this if nothing ever changes. Are you willing to be in this relationship dynamic? So if you're stuck in a push-pull relationship where you feel you're one of these people, start by journaling and ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve by chasing this connection? And you might uncover beliefs that go far beyond the present moment. Can I see myself doing this in 10 years, 20 years? What's the most important to me right now? Is this a pattern that I keep on attracting in my life? Because understanding your attachment patterns is really important towards building relationships that last and feel safe. Share this episode with someone who needs it. If you know someone who's really stuck in this push-pull dynamic, or they're attracting the same partner over and over again, do share this because it can be super helpful for them. And if you haven't today, make sure you self-care and look after yourself and take care of your mind, because it is the only one that you have. And I will see you in the next episode. Take care. Bye. Did you know by taking 2 seconds to leave a rating or a review, you help me get the podcast out to more listeners just like you who could really benefit from the information? I appreciate all your support and thank you for tuning in.